welcome back. Going to be on real short because I really want to show you a video by Jack Hibbs, who has a church in California. You know, Pastor Jack is my second favorite pastor, next to my own. And he is spot on in this video. The thing is, this is my own personal opinion, not scriptural, but I don't believe that every pastor is led to be a spokesperson for all of the crimes being committed against mankind from the pulpit. Now, they may talk about that in their inner circle. They may talk about it to other people that they know, but I don't believe that all of them have been led to do that. Having said that, there are also those that are not well versed on what's going on in the world. They don't believe they should be mixing the church and politics. However, that's an oxymoron because God's a government God. There's a lot of politics in the Bible. And if you don't know that, you've never read it. And there's politics in the church. But not every pastor feels comfortable about doing this. And I think Jack has probably hit on 99.9% of the reasons why they're not comfortable doing it. And unfortunately, it's because some of them have one foot in the worldview and one foot in the biblical worldview. And it's almost like, well, I'm a born-again believer, but I still believe I need to keep the law. When the law has been written on your heart, and because you are a blood-bought, born-again believer, you do your best to keep the law. But God knew that no one can keep the law. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a new covenant. We'd still be under the old covenant. And a lot of people get that confused. You cannot use the law and be in the new covenant under grace. Doesn't work that way. One foot in the law, one foot in grace doesn't work. If you don't believe me, read Galatians and also read Romans. In Galatians, Paul was brutal to those people who believed they still had to keep the law, and they were in grace. He was brutal. But Romans and Galatians gives you in detail why you can't do that, why it's not possible. Even in Hebrews, in verse 10:26, when he says, if you willfully continue sinning, that there remains no more sacrifices. And I'm not saying this verbatim, okay? I'm paraphrasing. That you basically tread in the blood of Christ underfoot. Now, let me just say this. You have to understand the context of that scripture, because even Christians, and I don't care if you've been a Christian for 2 days, 2 hours, or 50, 60, 70 years, you're still sin. Not that you want to, but you do, because we're a fallen people. That's where grace comes in. And it's almost like the day you become born again, you're put into a vacuum sealed pack like you would a frozen food and then suck all the air out of it so that when sin happens it can't penetrate that plastic shield or can any type of bacteria or anything do it in a frozen meat inside a vacuum packed frozen vacuum pack, yeah, whatever. But anyway, you can't do that. So you're in grace if you're born again. If not, you want to try to keep the law, I will pray for you because I know that you're going to need all the prayer you can get because you're never going to do it. Because the law, if you break one of the 603 laws, not counting the Ten Commandments, that's 613 total. But if you break one, you've broken them all. No one, not anyone, can keep 613 laws, except one person. And that was Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. He did it. Why? He is the unblemished Lamb who went to the cross and died for us. Only He could have done that. No one else could have done it. You know, I heard Jack Hibbs say that he was listening to a song. It was a secular song, but he remembered it from back in the day. And it was Mick Jagger, and he was singing, you know, that song, "Time is on my side." Yes, it is. Well, it's not. And he said, if you don't believe me, have you seen Mick Jagger lately? Okay, so he's right. Time's no longer on our side. I don't care if you're 15 or 85. Time's no longer on your side. We have never in the history of mankind been closer to the end than we are right now. Never. With all the things going on in the world, and that you could take and place in the Bible, and it fits over just like it's an overlay, there it is, it belongs there. No. We are in that end time, and we are getting closer every day to hearing that shofar blow and taking God's people home. Once that happens, and those who did not give their life to Christ and do it after the rapture, they're going to have hell to pay. You're going to be going through some stuff that you don't want to go through. There's a lot of places you can find information about that, but I suggest you start with the book of Daniel and then start reading the book of Revelation, because you won't understand Revelation without Daniel. Now, I'm not saying there's not other prophets within the Old Testament that gives you that, or even that Jesus gave us in Matthew 24 and other places, but you need to, that's the primary places to go is Daniel and then Revelations, and you'll kind of get the idea of what's going to happen if you don't make a decision today. Today's the day. It's a simple choice. God wants you all in, or He wants you all out. There's no gray areas. There's no I'm neutral here. There's no neutrality at all. Okay. So I'm going to jump out now. I have a dear friend of mine. Her name is Judith, and I would ask that everyone who hears my voice pray for Judith's healing. Pray for her to come through this series of antibiotics and things that she's going to be going through for the next week to 10 days, and that she's going to walk out of there feeling great, and will be home with her family and back with those of us who love her, and back doing the things that she loves to do, and that is going to church, going to classes. She comes to my class on Thursday nights, wonderful woman, and I just ask every one of you to pray for her, if you would. Okay? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump off. I'm going to edit the video. I'm going to put Jack Hibbs in there, and then we will see you in a few days. God bless each and every one of you.
Well, Jack, your congregation is so vibrant. The people are so enthusiastic. Yet I know that pastors are listening right now who maybe they've been a bit timid on some of these cultural issues that have become political, even though 40 or 50 years ago they weren't political. You know, marriage wasn't political. 60, 70 years ago, abortion wasn't political. Certainly gender change operations were not political just 10 minutes ago. Now all this stuff is political. And they're afraid, Jack, that if they give the biblical viewpoint on gender, the biblical viewpoint on life, the biblical viewpoint on marriage, that's going to be seen as divisive. How would you respond to that objection?
I just wrote this down while you were talking. At what point, Pastor, will you stand up? Mm-hmm. On what issue will finally cause you to stand up? Now, let's be honest. Let's just be brutally honest. And I believe that from history, Frank, and you know this way better than I do, when you look at the conduct of the ancient pagan cultures, their last vestige of anything before they were either attacked or collapsed or died from within was aberrant sexuality. Sex became the god of that nation or that culture or that city state. But what was the thing that preceded that? It was the destroying or the destruction in pagan worship of the unborn child or the newly born child. So my question to America's pastors is this: when will you stand up? Because Frank said it exactly right a moment ago. Notice that all the issues that are the hot button issues, we hear them called, they're all biblical now. They're all Bible, all of them. But if you're not standing, we are fully convinced of something that you may not be aware of. You're not going to stand. You would have stood by now. You would have stood by now to save and speak up for the unborn when you're commanded in Scripture to speak up for those who are condemned to crushing, to those that are doomed to death. And but you're not speaking up. Because why? Because you might lose some big tithers. That you might lose your 501c3. You think God needs a 501c3? And listen, if you lose tithers because you stand up for truth, those people weren't worshipers in the first place. The issues, marriage, biblical issue. Life, biblical issue. Listen, I've read the book of Daniel and the book of Acts. Do you know what else is a biblical issue? Borders. God says, I've established the borders of nations and I've put citizens within those borders. God did that. But if you don't defend borders, are you obeying God?
But they have a lock on their church, Jack. They believe in borders. They just may disagree on where the border is. Everyone agrees on borders. You just can't let anybody in. You're supposed to, and it's not compassionate, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, to open up a border where drug dealers and sex traffickers can bring drugs into this country and also bring children into this country to put them into prostitution. That's what's going on. That's not compassionate. You're enabling evil. We want people to come to this country, but we want people to come to this country properly, to be vetted. We also don't want terrorists coming across the border as well.